Hello, welcome to Week 6 of Philosophies of Life. This week we begin Unit 3, Technology and Human Development. In this lecture, I'll introduce the concept of human development and connect it to our examinations of technology and the human good. I will then discuss this week's sources. This lecture is paired with Unit 3 Toolkit, so you may wish to bring that up and take notes while you watch. In the last few weeks, we have been, in the spirit of Socrates, closely examining our relationship with technology and how that relationship shapes what it means to live a good or meaningful human life. Just as Socrates poked his fellow Athenians, prodding them to wake up and care more for the excellence of their soul than for their wealth or beauty, so our Unit 2 sources call us to wake up from sleepwalking through technological innovation and forgetfulness of nature. They call us to examine more carefully the kind of world we are making with our technologies. In Unit 2, we examined and contrasted two different views on the nature of technology and our relationship to it. The familiar, conventional view, which according to Winner needs to be re-examined entirely, is that technologies are just tools, objects that we pick up, use occasionally to aid us in our activities, and then put down again. On this view, the only questions we need to ask ourselves are about how we are using these tools. Are we using them with good or bad intentions? Does the tool use lead to positive or negative results? Against this view, Winner argues that technologies have become much more than mere tools or artificial aids to human activities. If the experience of modern society has shown us anything, he writes on page 51, it's that technologies are not merely aids to human activity, but also powerful forces acting to reshape that activity and its meaning. As technologies are integrated into the everyday patterns of human activities, they shed their tool-like qualities to become forms of life woven into the social and moral fabric of our human worlds. Widespread alteration of the techniques of communication, transportation, manufacturing, agriculture, and so forth are largely what distinguishes our time from earlier periods of human history. The printing press, television, internet, social media, steam engines, automobiles, jet planes, mass transit, the assembly line, and factory farming. These do not merely aid our activities. These technologies reshape those human activities, give them new meaning. They recreate or restructure social norms and expectations, economic systems and opportunities, moral realities, and the political and legal landscape of our lives, and the human worlds that we must navigate while seeking to live good and meaningful lives. Therefore, on Winner's view, the important questions are not just about what tools we use, how, and why, but about what kind of world we are making for ourselves and others to live in. Nowhere are the questions about technology and the kind of world we are making more pressingly presented than in the United Nations 2122 Human Development Report. The authors of this report note that the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on economies pale beside the upheavals expected by powerful new technologies and the hazards and transformations they pose. They follow this observation with questions about the kind of world we are making. What do investments in people's education and skills look like in the face of the disorienting pace of technological change, including automation and artificial intelligence? How do we think about human education and skill development in the face of deliberate, necessary energy transitions that would restructure societies? More broadly, amid unprecedented patterns of dangerous planetary change, what human capabilities matter and how? Heeding the call of Winner and others like him, the creators of the annual Human Development Reports have been asking questions about how to harness the world-making power of new technologies to improve human development for over 20 years. In the 2001 report, Making New Technologies Work for Human Development, the authors state, "Our challenge is now to map a path across this fast-changing terrain, not just to put to rest the debate over whether technological advances can help development, but to help identify the global and national policies and institutions that can best accelerate the benefits of technological advances while carefully safeguarding against the new risks that inevitably accompany them." And so, in Unit 3, following winter, we will follow the example of these reports to examine the topic of technology and human development. But what are these reports? Who creates them, and for what purpose? The Human Development Reports are created annually by a team of international researchers tasked with compiling, comparing, and interpreting data from regions across the globe. They are then meant to report to the United Nations Human Development Program their findings and make policy recommendations that will help countries eliminate poverty and achieve sustainable economic growth and human development. But what do they mean by human development? The term is clearly important to them, and it's clearly a technical term that has a specific meaning. But what is it? Let's keep in mind that the term human development has different meanings in different contexts. In one context, psychology, the term human development refers generally to the kinds of changes human beings undergo as they move from birth to death. Those of you who are education majors, psychology majors, or in related fields of study will probably be familiar with the term from this concept, but this is not the context that we're working with in this unit, and this is not the way that we're going to be thinking about human development. It's not the way that the term is applied by the Human Development Program. Instead, the concept of development, as used by the United Nations Development Program and in the Human Development Reports, originates from the field of economics, specifically development economics, which is the branch of economics that aims to contribute to the economic development and building of nations and regions across the globe. When we talk, for example, about developing and developed nations, what we used to call first and third world nations, we are using the term development in the context of economics and development economics. And this is the context we want to think about when we're in this unit. Now, in traditional development economics approaches, a nation or region's level of development is measured almost exclusively in terms of their economic strength, their gross national product, their gross national income per capita, and so forth, and sometimes also in terms of their levels of industrialization or technological advancement. However, although the term development, as used by the UNDP and the Human Development Reports, originates from development economics, the economists who launched the Human Development Reports in 1980, Pakistani economist Mahbub ul-Haq on the right, and Indian Nobel laureate in economics Amartya Sen on the left, have actually criticized that definition of development, and they used philosophical concepts and tools to challenge this definition and to come up with a new one which they think is better. In the very first Human Development Report, ul-Haq writes, "The real wealth of a nation is its people, and the purpose of development is to create an enabling environment for people to enjoy long, healthy, and creative lives. This simple but powerful truth is too often forgotten in the pursuit of material and financial wealth." So what ul-Haq is doing here is he's using this philosophical concept of intrinsic and instrumental value to criticize the standard definition of development, right? He's saying, look, money has only instrumental value. It's only valuable as a means to some further goal or some further intrinsic value. And the real intrinsic value, the real wealth of a nation, what has real worth is not money, but people. And so we should be concerned not with economic development for its own sake, but with the development of a people. Similarly, in his book, Development as Freedom, Sen argues that the ultimate goal or end of development is to expand human freedom and individuals' capabilities to live lives they have reason to value. He argues that the best way or means for expanding human freedom is by increasing the specific freedoms humans are able to enjoy, because expanding human freedom in one area, say economic freedoms such as the ability to own property or earn a living wage or participate in the workforce at all, expands freedoms in other areas such as political freedom or freedom of thought and conscience. Their approach, Hawke and Sen's approach, was adopted by the UN and the United Nations Development Program, and it became known as the Human Development Approach. In contrast to the approach taken by traditional development economics, which uses gross national income to measure a country's development, the human development approach asks, what is each person capable of doing and being? For that reason, this approach is sometimes referred to as the capabilities approach. Human development, or the human development approach, is about expanding the richness of human life rather than simply the richness of the economy in which human beings live. It is an approach that is focused on people and their opportunities and choices. This approach arises out of and is perhaps best understood when placed within the philosophical tradition of universal human rights, documented in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, created after World War II, in an effort to maintain peace and justice and avoid the atrocities to human dignity and freedom that happened in World War II. For this reason, your first source for week 6 is to read or listen to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The audio version available is actually read by Eleanor Roosevelt herself, who was hugely influential in drafting this document. There's also a brief documentary that accompanies this reading assignment that provides a bit more context to help you understand it. As you will see, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights emphasizes especially the link between human dignity and human freedom. And this link is reiterated over and over by the United Nations Development Program and their approach to human development. When humans lack important freedoms, opportunities, and choices, their inherent human dignity is violated. Human development is about giving people more freedom to live lives they value. This means developing people's abilities and giving them the chance to use them. Our second source for this week is 2 chapters from Martha Nussbaum's book, Creating Capabilities, the Human Development Approach. Martha Nussbaum is a philosopher currently located close to us at the University of Chicago, jointly appointed in the departments of philosophy and law. She is also a colleague of Emeritus Sen, has worked closely with him, and worked for a time at the United Nations University on policy working towards human development. She has contributed significantly to the development approach, especially with regard to the status of women's development and rights across the globe. The chapters from her book that we will read attempt to explain this approach in a way that is accessible to non-experts, especially undergraduate students. Our next source is a documentary, Amish, the People of Preservation, which looks at a society that has largely rejected the idea of technological progress, favoring instead the simpler life of times past. This documentary will give us a very different perspective on the connection between human development, what each person is able to do and be, and technological development. Finally, we will return to the Brave New World to consider the question, what does freedom have to do with human dignity? When it comes to human development and a good human life, what is more valuable, freedom or happiness, rights or comfort and satisfaction? I hope you find this week's sources intriguing and provocative. And as always, let me know if you have any questions, as I want each one of you to succeed in this course. Good job on finishing up week 5 and moving on to week 6.